Hi guys, welcome to the Business Lab. My guest for today is Abu
He's
Sofyan.
in he's in the host punya seat. That's why he's the host now.
The Business Lab.
Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of the Business Lab. Now our podcast today is sponsored by none other than our venue partner Craft by 3 and our media magicians Studio 5 Corp. Today I have none other than Ustaz Mizi Wahid as a guest. Woo! Applause. Okay, so for those of you who don't already know who Ustaz Mizi is, he has over a decade of experience in the ecosystem with a background in halal industry, Islamic finance, and Islamic education. As a founder and CEO of Safinah Holdings Private Limited, he leads a progressive Islamic organization addressing contemporary community issues through various events. Now, Ustaz is also the director of Museum Private Limited, a digital marketing agency providing brand positioning, online presence, enhancement, and content creation. All right, and he's a founding partner of YOUM Private Limited, an online platform for young Muslims. He has also authored 4 best-selling books and hosts the Mizi Wahid podcast covering faith, family, and future issues, FFF. Now, his active social media presence includes Instagram and Twitter. Welcome, Ustaz, to the podcast.
Thank you so much. Wow, that was a nice opening. Do
That
you have
was-
something for me to read about you?
no.
How are you? Good?
I'm good. Alhamdulillah. And I'm very happy to have you as a guest. Obviously, you've been in the industry, Islamic ecosystem for a long time. Today, we're going to focus on the topic of reconciling being a religious person, Islamic spirituality, and also becoming an entrepreneur, a business person. Now, some of the viewers might either be thinking about starting a business, or they've already started a business and they're in a infancy stages, or they're advanced entrepreneurs. So we're trying to address and give as much value as we can to all 3 levels. So Ustaz, what are your thoughts on this delicate balance between spirituality, materialism, and entrepreneurship? What do you think?
What do I think?
Yeah.
I think it's haram. No, no.
Astaghfirullahalazim.
I think it's a very interesting question because I think it comes from the perspective that being an entrepreneur means you're pursuing wealth, and therefore that equates to it being impermissible in Islam. If you go back to the basic history of our Prophet, peace be upon him, his beloved first wife, Sayyidatina Khadija, was a successful business woman. And I know there are many female entrepreneurs here in Singapore now, and he himself got into business. His close friends, like the likes of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu, Abdul Rahman ibn Auf radiallahu anhu, they were all successful, highly successful entrepreneurs who amassed great amounts of wealth during their lifetime. And if it was wrong, then somebody would have said something, right? I guess what needs to be highlighted here is that the separation between working hard, creating value in society, and giving it to them in exchange for something back in return, there is nothing wrong with that. But falling in love with the material wealth, that's where the problem is. When you get too attached to money, wealth, fame, luxury, then that is the problem, right? You're not supposed to be too attached to those worldly things. Your focus should always be, I'm here in existence in this world for a purpose. What is that purpose? Figure that part out. Maybe it's helping people. Maybe it's relieving their pain, their suffering. Maybe it's facilitating certain things that they don't know how to do well at. When you do that for them, and in exchange they give you something back in return, which is money, then there's nothing wrong.
So there's nothing wrong because there's an exchange of value.
That's one of the reasons. Another reason is, looking at what's happening in the world today, if you know what I mean, and people are trying to find alternative products and services and they're struggling. To me, the problem lies again in the lack of entrepreneurs and the lack of people propagating entrepreneurship as a whole, right? If you go to any school nowadays, it's slightly improving, but there's a lot of talk on career guidance, very little in comparison talking about entrepreneurship.
So true.
It's true, right?
So true.
So I think the ratio is like 8:2. I think it needs to be more,
Balance.
3 or 4 at least. So
Why do you think there's a case though? Like, there's a lot of push for entrepreneurship. Maybe some people feel it's a little bit only for a certain group of people, or that could be one reason.
I think it's the mindset and mentality of it begins at home.
Yeah.
Family feels like it's safe. I want safe. I want stability. I want security for myself and for my children. And therefore, I will continue to, do this. And I will only want to expose my children to things that are less risky. There's so many stories of successful entrepreneurs who started out saying that my parents were never supportive from the get-go, But once I started bringing in the dough, becoming successful, then they're like, oh, okay, it works, So being an entrepreneur always means that you'll have doubters in your life, a lot of them. Everybody thinking that you surely will not make it. It's safer also for them to assume that you would fail rather than thinking that you would succeed.
I think first and foremost, we need to understand how the interior design industry works here in Singapore. So majority of the IDs or the people who work within the interior design companies, most of them are actually freelancers. They are not employed based on a full-time basis, so they work on a commission basis. So, and some business models or some ID companies want to have a lot of ID so that they can close a lot of projects on. My personal tip here is start with visiting the IDs that you have shortlisted or you're interested in. Look at their place of work, look at how they work, look at their office. Once you have done that, I think what you should also do here is to ensure that these IDs that you potentially want to engage are HDB licensed. Last but definitely not least, and to me the most important, because I think nobody do this. Okay. Once you have confirmed, or let's say for example, you really want to sign with this ID company, right? Go to Accra website and pull out the company's profile. Firstly, you know who are the directors. You know where is their office. You know when they were incorporated. Most importantly, you know how much they actually put in as the initial investment or their capital. So in the context of my industry, right, the ID industry, right, I always advise my clients, don't look for cheap, look for value. Okay? Because cheap don't guarantee you that you're going to get what you want. Okay? Because in order to be cheap, there are corners that I need to cut. But instead look for value. And when I talk of value here, it's not just what I use to build your home, how I communicate with you, how prompt am I? How am I? How I can advise you? These are all the value I add. So like for us, because I maintain a very small team, right? So we only manage between 2 or 3 projects a month. We don't do a lot of projects. So this way, my people are better at managing that project. We are at site more frequent. We are constantly there to check if there are mistakes being made. And our communication with the owners are more frequent, more kira macam more in depth lah. We are able to correct.
So it's all about being safer.
How do you deal with doubters? Because you're an entrepreneur, you've been in the quote unquote the ecosystem. How do you in particular deal with such doubters?
You can either cause those who doubt you to influence you, your emotions, your mood, your feelings, and then eventually you quit, right? In one of my books, I said the greatest temptation in life is the temptation to quit. You want to just give up on everything. When things get tough, when nobody wants to support you, when your launch fails, like, man, that's it. What's the point? I just quit, right? But for me personally, when people doubt me, it actually makes me stronger. So you can use that as leverage. You can use that as fuel to carry you through to the difficult journey and this unfamiliar terrain that every time, you go into a new business, new industry, a new partner, a new market, right? It's always going to be a little bit anxious for you because you don't know how the outcome is going to be.
Right.
But some people actually, that gets them excited. The uncertainty is a thing that drives them, right?
Wow.
Because if everything's so predictable, it bores them. So some people listening to this, they might relate to it or not. I don't know. But yeah, that's me.
I wanted to circle back to what you mentioned on attachment to worldly pursuits, right? A lot of people, initially when they first start, the intention is, you know what, I want to build a business for Lillahi Ta'ala, for example. But when does it start to go astray? What are some of the signs that hey, maybe my intention is getting a little bit wobbly here, a little bit shaky here? Would you have any advice for something like that?
For me, the best person to always give me this feedback is usually my wife.
High five.
She knows when, why is this not working out? And probably go back to your intention. Like she is, nobody else lectures me on that. So she gets the privilege of doing that. But you need somebody, first and foremost, you need someone who can give you that reminder every now and then. Even when things are going okay, you need a reminder. Don't only wait until things aren't going well, aren't going to plan, So how do you realign? I think realignment begins with self-reflection. So you sit down and you try to think about, okay, why am I here and why did I start? And am I still on the right path? And I think inner peace and happiness only comes when your goals, your achievements, your accomplishments are aligned with your values and aligned with your principles in life. If they contradict, you will start to sense a bit of restlessness and unhappiness, like, oh man, I need to do, something's not right. I need to change something because it's not aligned. So how do you ensure alignment? Always reflect. It doesn't have to be every night. It can be, but it can also be every week, every month, and most definitely every year.
I think it's beautiful because the journey is a long one. For some people, they want the destination, but what you're really saying is that have a confidant, have someone to co-reflect with, and always check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Yep.
Right? Mashallah. So I think I want to transition into one. Let's say someone out there, they have already started their business. So now it's an infancy stage, right? What would you tell them, knowing what you know now, right, to focus on at that early stage?
The good thing is I'm always starting something new every year because I get bored very fast. I would say the most important thing because doing business involves serving others. Who are you serving, and what is that value that you're offering them? The /solution, right? So the most powerful thing, at least for me, my business involves content creation, whether it's for students and participants at my events, or it's for my clients who I create content for, right? So it's always about, if I don't get them, this thing will, it will not connect with them. I need so badly for whatever that I'm creating, writing, speaking about, connects directly to them. And so sometimes connection begins with understanding their pain points.
Okay.
But sometimes it's also just knowing what are their ambitions. What do they really want? And how can you help them get there?
I think the most important thing for anybody who wants to venture and go out and do their own business is to understand that there is no substitute to hard work. Hard work comes first. Everything else comes second. Because we do know that people view business owners as kurang boss. You guys are bosses. You guys drive nice cars and you guys stay in nice places. Yeah, but you don't understand the struggles to get there. I personally tell myself this: do or do not, there's no try. Courtesy of Yoda.
So the most simplest is you're a Grab driver. I need to get that person from point A to point B. This is the simplest.
Point A to point B.
If you do that, will they pay you money? Of course they'll pay you.
they will.
Because you are giving them exactly what they want. Because it's painful, the idea of walking there to the destination, and their desire is, I want to reach to that place so that I can buy something there or meet someone I love there, whatever, right? So that's the very basic.
It sounds a lot like being empathetic to your ideal customer.
You have to. Yeah. I think the companies that do this well are the ones who always ask questions and they don't make assumptions. They regularly check in. So their clients, they don't just serve them one time and then they just bye-bye. They check in every day. Hey, how are things right now, So one of the things I do under Museum is also I do corporate talks, corporate training. So I do all sorts of clientele like banks and fashion brands and takaful companies and even oil and gas. So I serve different types of clientele. So the role that I need to play is that I need to understand what are their exact needs. Generally speaking, because I'm talking to either the leaders or the staff in general, I know because the patterns are about the same everywhere I go, regardless, right? But there are some things that are unique to them.
Unique.
Unique to their climate, unique to their economy, unique to their industry. So I sometimes have to spend time first asking questions, talking to their leader, the managing director, the CEO, just to help me understand better. Because, or else, what am I really talking about? I'm talking about something that applies to everyone except them. That's the scariest thing. So imagine if you're creating a product right now, infancy stage, right? And you get excited. Why? Because you fell in love with the product before anyone else does.
Yep.
That can lead to failure, right?
Why so?
Because then you're in your own world. Shock sendiri.
In your
right?
own world.
Yeah. So don't make that mistake.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of entrepreneurs definitely echo what you're saying. And I think that for those starting out, finding out the real pain points could prove to be a challenge.
Spend time researching, asking questions. So I remember before I started Safinah Institute, I was already teaching some classes at different mosques. So I had some of their email addresses, right? And I started asking them questions like, how many of you would like to attend a religious class that was conducted in English? And yeah, I would. And then I had like 5 questions. It wasn't a lot. And then I asked them, how frequent would you like to attend a class? Once a week, twice a week, once a month? And then they gave me answers. How much are you willing to pay? And then I gave a range, like, okay, and then they gave answer. And then I think like, what subjects would you like to learn? And then, so that was about
Feedback.
it. Yeah. And then I have data. Now I can start something and I know that it's going to be demand.
Right. So lead with insight to find out about the demand.
Yeah.
Wow, that's beautiful. How about, okay, I'm very curious to know because Ustaz, you're balancing the ecosystem of Islamic ecosystem and business. The main question here is about skills. Because there are some skills that maybe you are in the Islamic, quote unquote, Islamic scene, but you might not have the skills for entrepreneurship. What are the top 3 skills you believe business owners should have?
Wow. I'll mention the one that I'm weakest at.
Okay.
Most, okay.
Okay, sure.
It's still a struggle. And the number one is actually managing people.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's the toughest one. And you need to know yourself, right? So knowing yourself means what? It means, are you, for example, the most basic one, are you introverted, extroverted, like basic stuff? If you're not even aware of that, you have a problem, right?
Yeah.
Do you enjoy chatting with people? Do you love hanging out with them? Or do you not? Right? If you don't, then how do you go around doing that, right? Because at the end of the day, you will always interact with people. You will always, have a team that you need to manage and lead, right? So if you don't do that part well, then what is an alternative? So for example, an alternative would be you hire a middle manager, so to speak, to interact with them because you're not great at that. So the first step is to recognize your own weaknesses, right? So managing and leading people is number one. Number two, a skill that will never go out of fashion would be the skill of writing clearly.
Copywriting?
Everything. Because, I think how I started to build the business was, yes, copywriting, writing for social media, but also writing professional email because I'm dealing with big clients. Like, how do I write in a way that still connects with them, that doesn't get drowned in all the thousands of other emails that they get? How do I stand out and yet still sound professional and not fluff? It's an art.
It's an art.
So I would suggest that you continue to develop that skill, write regularly. And people might say, well, Ustaz, now we have ChatGPT. Why do I still need to learn? It's very different. Why do you write in the first place? Do you write because you enjoy writing? I write because I enjoy writing.
Me too.
Right? So don't just take the shortcut because you're not learning anything, you're not growing. And after a while, I can already tell who's using ChatGPT and who's not. I can tell, the words, the patterns, the style.
I realized that if you write, it sharpens your thought and thinking, your ideas.
And it links to the earlier point about empathy. Because as I'm writing, I'm thinking, where are they really hurting at the moment? How do I connect with them at the level of their pain and then help them understand that their pain is valid, and then telling them that I know what they're going through because I've helped this many people, and then this is how I can help them specifically, right? So learn how to write. Again, there are many other things that you can do, but please learn how to write. It's
So
a
the
must.
second one. Last
Yeah.
one. The third one.
The last one is the skill of so many things, but I guess the skill of I don't know whether this is a skill, but the skill of acknowledging your own mistakes and your own faults, your own weaknesses.
Your own weaknesses.
What I'm trying to get at is stay humble and put your ego aside, because you might think that you know everything. I just had a coaching this morning with a CEO from Malaysia, and she was saying that, Ustaz, she has a team of 60 something people, and he said, Ustaz, I don't know what I'm doing is right or wrong. So I asked, what do you mean? She said, some days I want my team to do on their own, right?
Yeah.
I let them do on their own, and then when they present to me, I don't like it. So I don't know whether I should just let them do it their way or should I insist on my way. So she said, some days I insist on my way because I know my way works better because I'm more experienced, right? And then after that, she realizes that the team feels demoralized whenever their ideas get shot down and they've been working so hard and it doesn't get happen. Maybe some people listening can relate, right? And then she said, okay, I let them. So sometimes when she lets them do whatever they want to do and it turns out bad, she ends up being angry at them. And she said, I'd rather be angry at myself. I can own my own failure if my ideas don't work out. So I don't know, so it's back and forth. So what I like about this is that she is aware of her own struggle, right? And she is aware that there is some elements of her own personal weakness in terms of not being able to fully delegate and empower the team.
And it's so much related to your first point, right? Managing people. And I think it's really beautiful. I hope you guys noted down the 3 skills and hopefully it will help and serve your business. Thank you so much, Ustaz, for joining us. Thank you so much for tuning into the Business Lab. Catch us on YouTube, on Spotify, and all of the SMCCI social media channels. Thank you to our venue sponsor, Craft by 3, and our media magicians, Studio 5 Corp. We'll see you again. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.